What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's going on with the economic calendar, which you should be watching for as time progresses, and also some very important information about the current support that we're looking at. But before I break anything down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the markets. Looking at SPY, we have this rising wedge that's continuing to develop as this thing has been on a nice uptrend, but starting to show some weakness at this support right over here. But I just want to call out that tomorrow is going to be a very important day. It is the last trading day of 2023. And there's a very good chance that we might see the market attempt to hold up just for a little bit longer before we get some kind of pullback in January. So I anticipate a pullback coming very, very soon based off the indicators that we have and different signals. But just to be safe, guys, there's no sign that the market's breaking down like very strongly quite yet. So it may be a little bit delayed, but I think that sometime in January it's going to be coming. Now, for tomorrow specifically, as a reminder, tomorrow we have just under 850,000 calls expiring, and we have just over about 1.65 million puts expiring. So what this means is we have a 1.96 puts to call ratio. There are basically two puts for every one call expiring tomorrow. And with all these puts expiring, the question is, what will the market makers do? Sometimes the market makers just cause the market to chop around, not really do much, trade sideways, and sometimes they tend to cause the market to pump. We're going to likely get one of those tomorrow. But ultimately, I don't think that the market's going to sustain these levels for much longer. I think a pullback is coming for January. I still hold that view. And that also has to do with the fear and greed index. We're at extreme greed right now. People are so greedy buying up top, and this incentivizes the market makers to cause some pain for those who are trying to buy up here. So with extreme greed, it's been up here for over a week. We typically don't, remain this greedy, this extremely greedy for very, very long. So I believe within the next 2 weeks, there's going to be a pullback coming because of this. There are also some bearish divergences developing on SPY. These weren't really working as well for December because of the fact that the market was just continuing to hold up. And the market was very manipulated. That's another reason why. But sometimes they could still work out. So we just need many other indicators to help build that narrative, to build that thesis. So basically, this suggests a pullback is coming. These other indicators suggest a pullback is coming soon. It might not start tomorrow, but going into 2024, I do anticipate it. Market momentum is at extreme greed. Our put and call positioning is at extreme greed as well. It's already starting to bounce as we're starting to see some of these puts starting to be closed. And besides that, we're not seeing much else going on with market volatility. So what is my prediction? To be honest with everyone, don't forget we have some data at 9:45 a.m. tomorrow for the Chicago PMI. That's pretty much all the data. And when it comes to my prediction, I think that very soon there's a pullback coming. I think the market's going to pull back soon. It might not start tomorrow. It may start sometime in early 2024. I believe it's going to happen in early 2024, regardless of what happens tomorrow. But we'll just have to see how tomorrow goes first before the pullback starts. And that's what's going to be very key. So as far as SPY goes, we have support right here around this 476 area. It is possible for there to be one more push towards 478. If we break that, we could get close to 480, close to those all-time highs. There could be one more attempt to push a little higher before the market ends up finding its top. And then I think that there's going to be a big rejection. I believe that between the high we have right here at 477.5 and 480 is where the market's going to top. And I think that we're going to see a big shift and a big rug pull that's coming. And I think that we have a lot of gaps down here to fill. So once again, guys, could the market hold up? I think there's a very good chance it's going to try to hold up. If we're bearish tomorrow, watch for 476 as support. If that fails, watch 475. Then we have 474 and 473.8. If we're bullish, you want to see it try to break the high of the day and break to 478. What is most likely going to happen? Well, with all the options expiring, I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of push in the morning, get close to 478, then we come back down, we just kind of consolidate and trade sideways again with a very, very boring kind of price action, and we just close kind of close to where we are. Then we might start the pullback sometime in 2024, very early 2024. That's what I think is very probable for SPY. That's what I believe is most likely going to happen. Whoopsie daisy, sorry about that, guys. But just to be safe, make sure you watch your indicators. On SPY right now, we're very much just sideways. If you look at the 4-hour, there's not really much going on. Very sideways for now. The QQQ of all things is starting to excuse me, sorry guys. The QQQ is starting to show some weakness. This is very important because we had this rising wedge that was forming. We're starting to break out of it, but we're starting to rebound as well. So we're going to be watching to see if the QQQ does something like this. If we're bullish, you want to see this break above 412 and close above this. If we're bearish, you want to see this thing basically, fail to hold up and end up losing support right here where these wicks are at 410. If we close below 410, we're going to turn a bit more bearish, and I think we have a gap to fill down here. But what I find to be more probable is kind of a mix of two. I think that we're going to be very flat. I think that this is going to attempt to rebound towards 412, come back down, just continue to consolidate, trade sideways, and then close the year on a pretty high note before we get a pullback in 2024. So that's what I find very probable. We're starting to show some weakness from breaking out of this rising wedge. So it might rebound a little bit, trade sideways, and eventually break down more into like 2024. All right. So that's what I'm seeing for the QQQ. I think that there's some downside coming soon. For Nvda, this thing is also going to likely see some downside soon, but not yet. It all depends on different factors. If we continue to hold above 197.5, we could get one more attempt for liquidity to be grabbed up here before we break down going into next year like this. But if we break down tomorrow, then it could just happen even sooner. So I see this thing breaking down towards 490 soon. Okay, I think it's going to break down to 490. Tomorrow we might hold up first between 195 and 198 and then break down starting in 2024, or it could break down anyways. So I anticipate some downside for Nvidia soon. It might hold up for one more day before we get that downside later on going into 2024. That is my view. Watch 498 to 500 as resistance. Watch support at 495, 492, and 490. Once again, it could hold up in this range for one more day and then sell off starting in 2024. I think that's very probable. So just to be safe, make sure you watch all of this very carefully. As far as Tesla goes, I just want to mention that Tesla was looking kind of weak today because we had some bad news that came out, lots of negative news involving senators and potential recall news. But Tesla has been decimated. But we're going to be watching our very key fib levels. So watch 252. It depends on if Tesla could hold this. If Tesla holds this area, there's a chance it might actually try to rebound towards at least the 0.5 retracement area, try to bounce just temporarily, then make its way back down like this and get a kind of like decent close right before its deliveries. But I think that the 0.618 to 0.5 retracement areas where we could see Tesla try to come back towards before it ends up continuing. But if we don't hold 252, that's assuming we hold 252. If we don't bottom there, we could be trying to retest 250, then kind of trade sideways here for the time being before we get a much bigger move on like Tuesday. So it all depends on 252. Watch 250 and 247 as key supports of 252 breaks. If we hold it, look for a rebound towards I would say the higher 250s before this thing comes back down and trades kind of flat. All right, so watch your Fibonacci retracement area. In my opinion, I anticipate Tesla might attempt to rebound a bit as we're at support right here. We could see Tesla try to make its way back up to 258 and then kind of continue to chop for a bit. And then we're going to be looking for a much bigger move after deliveries. That's going to determine which way Tesla goes. So just to be safe, make sure you watch your levels. As long as we hold 252, I think it could rebound a bit. And I do favor that a little bit more. But that doesn't mean it's going to hold up forever because deliveries will have a much bigger effect on it. For Apple stock, I just want to call out that Aapl, as you can see, we have a bullish breakout attempt on Aapl, but we're basically stuck between supply and demand. We have resistance at 194.5-ish, and we have support at 193.5. If we lose 193.5, we're going to be looking for a bigger drop towards 192.5. If we manage to break 194.4, we'll look for a breakout towards 195. We're stuck between this range. Let me just change the color so you can see this more properly. We're stuck between these two yellow lines. Whichever one breaks will determine the bigger move. If we lose this bottom line at 193.5, I think it's going to come down towards 192.5. If we break the top one, 195 plus is coming. We're going to turn more bullish. As of right now, we're kind of stuck, and I think it's going to remain stuck for an extended period of time. So we'll be watching to see how Aapl does. Does this hold up? Is this forming an inverse head and shoulders, or is Aapl about to fail? We'll just have to wait and see. This could be an inverse head and shoulders forming, but just to be safe, watch which way we break. That's going to determine which way Aapl ends up going. Now, let me just go over a couple more tickers. I know I had a request for Rivian. For Rivian, I would say that this is looking a little bit weak to me. We have a bearish divergence. I think it's going to be testing 22.84. It's going to test this and try to bounce. So I see a little bit of a move to the downside within the next couple of trading days. It could pop tomorrow, hold up for some time, and then start selling off towards the 50 EMA by next week. But I see a little downside coming anyways before this thing attempts to bounce. So far, it's kind of flat for the day, still holding up, looking like it might retest 10.08, then try to bounce. I think the 20 EMA is going to be key, so look for a little retracement towards 10 and a bounce. That looks very probable. Russell 2000 is kind of flat. It was kind of overbought after hitting this big resistance. It's treating the 20 EMA as support, so look for a test of 203 tomorrow, then a bounce. I think that's very probable for the Russell. Looking at Microsoft, this looks bullish to me. We have a bullish wedge forming. The reason for that is because it's just continuing to test these highs. Off this wedge, I think I wouldn't be surprised if we actually see this thing try to break out towards 377. It might push up for one more day, but don't forget that things could change in 2024 once the new year starts and the algos reset. So it looks bullish. Look for 378 or so to be tested before rejection. For AMD, we've been talking about 150 coming. We managed to hit 150. Now we're starting to reject. We have to break 150 to remain bullish. And so far, we're kind of rejecting off of it. It's also been treating the 50 EMA and the 20 EMAs as support. So I wouldn't be surprised if this thing kind of like pushes for 150 again and comes back down and eventually makes its way back down towards 146. So a little pump and drop is very probable for AMD. For the VIX, there's not really a whole lot going on. It's still kind of flat. Hasn't really broken above the 4-hour 200 EMA. Still kind of flat. It's not really giving us enough information. SQQQ is kind of flat as well, not really doing much. It hasn't even broken above the 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. The dollar index is kind of flat right now. We're trying to actually break above our 20 EMA. So if this thing does try to break this, we want to see it break 101.7. If that breaks, a push for 103 is a possibility. This could actually cause the market to slow down. So just be kind of careful with that. For Coinbase, kind of flat right now, but I see this thing basically retesting the 20 EMA. I think it's going to retrace towards 178 and try to bounce. So watch that very, very carefully. For Google, what did I say yesterday? I said Google might actually pull back just a little bit. We actually met our target. We're getting very close to 139.8. I think it's going to test 139.8 and then try to bounce. I see a little bit more downside coming. I think it could retest 140 and 139.8. On Amazon, on the 4-hour time frame, it's kind of like flat right now. If this thing ends up losing its support, at least right over here, going to be looking for 152.21 to be tested. That's going to be our 50 EMA test. It could test the 50 EMA and retrace to 152 and then bounce. For Meta, in my opinion, is going to likely test 356. So it might pop towards 360, then reject, hit 356, and just kind of bounce off that. So I see a little pump and trump coming to Meta before it continues from there. So that's what I'm seeing for Meta, guys. That's it for the video. I wanted to make this one kind of short. I hope this technical analysis was helpful. Once again, as a reminder, okay, I'm not saying the market's going to crash tomorrow. I'm not saying that has to happen. The market could hold up. We could just continue to consolidate in the range we're in right now on SPY and for the QQQ. But I think that in the future, going into January especially, I think that there's going to be a very healthy pullback coming because the market is very overbought. We have a triple bearish divergence on SPY's 4-hour and a double on the daily. And it's also because of the fact that the fear and greed index is finally at extreme greed, which typically marks tops for the markets. So I think there's a good chance that that's going to happen, and we're going to be looking at other factors that affect this. So take care, guys. Please remain calm, cool, and collected. Watch and see how the market reacts to supply and demand tomorrow, and I'll be back later on tomorrow morning to talk more about the markets. All right, so please have a great day. Don't forget the only piece of economic data for tomorrow that's going to be affecting the markets is the Chicago PMI at 9:45 a.m., 15 minutes after market open, and that's pretty much it. It's the last day of the year for trading. It's been an awesome time, an awesome year, and let's make 2024 even better. I'll be back very soon, guys. Have a great day, and peace out.